Today I'll be working in my workbook called Clearing a Pathway into the Psalms. And this covers Psalms 32 to 41. I already made an error on this. But today we'll be working on Psalm 36. Man's wickedness and God's perfections. Now, if you know the Psalms, you know that they did not come with titles. People have added titles, but they weren't originally written with titles. But it's certainly easier to put the titles in so you have some idea of what they're talking about. My titles come from New King James. So anyway, we'll go to Psalm 36. Is that this one? Yes. For the director of music of David, the servant of the Lord. I have a message from God in my heart concerning the sinfulness of the wicked. There's no fear of God before their eyes. In their own eyes, they flatter themselves too much to detect or hate their sin. The words of their mouths are wicked and deceitful. They fail to act wisely, do good. Even on their beds, they plot evil. They commit themselves to a sinful course and do not reject what is wrong. Your love, Lord, reaches to the heavens and your faithfulness to the skies. Your righteousness is like the highest mountains. Your justice like the great deep. You, Lord, preserve both people and animals. How priceless is your unfailing love, O God. People take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house. You give them drink from your river of delights. For with you is a fountain of life. In your light, we see light. Continue your love to those who know you, your righteousness to the upright in heart. May the foot of the proud not come against me, nor the hand of the wicked drive me away. See how the evildoers lie fallen, thrown down, not able to rise. With every psalm, before I do a deep dive in the psalm, I kind of do some commentary on the psalm, both pointing out some things other commentators have talked about in the psalms, and also trying to figure out when it might have been written. This psalm is part of the first book of Psalms, which is there's 5 books on the Psalms. The New NIV Study Bible states that Psalm 36 is an appeal against threats from godless, wicked people. It is part of a group of Psalms 34 through 37 that are grouped together because they form a literary unit framed by 2 alphabetic acrostic Psalms, 34 and 37, which contain wisdom-like instruction and warnings about the wicked and the righteous. According to Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown, Psalm 36 is both a didactic or wisdom psalm about good and bad men, and also a praise to good men. According to J. Vernon McGee, Psalm 36 is a picture of the wicked. Historically, since David doesn't specifically tell us when it was written, Bible scholars can disagree. For Psalm 36, the Blue Letter Bible doesn't believe that it was written by David, but during the Babylonian captivity, probably by Daniel just after he had the vision of the 4 beasts in Daniel 7:28. In this case, they're interpreting of David as meaning about David or like David. The Nelson Chronological Bible has it written by David after he instigates the census of Israel and Judah without God's approval, in 1 Chronicles 21, 1 through 29. Part of the subheading states, for the director of music. From this we know that the author wrote the psalm to the choir master, director of music, which is interchangeable with the chief musician. In David's time, this would either be Asaph, Jeduthun, or Heman. Asaph was a prominent Levite, a worship leader, and a magician in the court. He composed or co-authored several psalms. Jeduthun, also known as Ethan, was also a prominent Levite magician. Heman, the Ezrahite, was a Levite, seer, songwriter, and magician. He also wrote a song. All these at one time were considered the choir master or chief magician. If it was written during the time of Daniel, then there'd be no director of music until the Jews came back to Jerusalem. The second part of the subheading that was given with this psalm was that it was of David, the servant of the Lord. Although the word that translates as of could mean about and not by. This could mean that someone else wrote it about David or like him in style rather than him writing it. Although based on the fact that there was no director of music during the um, exile period, we still think that was David, or it seems a fairly good reasoning for David to have been it. Psalm 36 can be divided into three sections. Section 1 is the wicked man, verses 1 through 4. Section 2 is God's goodness, verses 5 through 9. And the last or concluding section is prayer for protection, verses 10 through 12. So questions about Psalm 36. Okay, the first section is the wicked man, verses 1 through 4. I have a message from God in my heart. This word translated as message is really more like an oracle or divine message from God. In verse 1, David has a message concerning the sinfulness of the wicked. Then he proceeds to tell us what that message is in balance of this section. There's no fear of God before their eyes, because in their own eyes they flatter themselves too much to detect or hate their sin, because the words of their mouths are wicked and deceitful, because they fail to act wisely or do good, and because even in their beds they plot evil, and because they commit themselves to a sinful course and do not reject what is wrong. There's a number of repetitions in these verses that extend the original thoughts produced. Verse 1, I have a message from my God in my heart concerning the sinfulness of the wicked, compared to verse 2. In their own eyes, they flatter themselves too much to detect or hate their sin. Compare also to verse 4. They commit themselves to a sinful course, right? Yeah. Verse 1, I have a message from God in my heart concerning the sinfulness of the wicked. Compared to verse 3, the words of their mouth are wicked and deceitful. Section 2, in contrast to the first section, we have a section on God's goodness. God's goodness. Here we almost can see David out on the mountaintop comparing what he sees to God's goodness. David uses repetition in these words with the word your. Notice your, we're talking 5 through 9. Your love, Lord, reaches to the heavens. Your faithfulness to the skies. Your righteousness is like the highest mountains. Your justice like the great deep. How priceless is your unfailing love, O God. People take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house. You give them drink from your river of delights. And we got to move this back for 9. Okay, back up. Sorry. Boom. Boom. In your light, we see light. As I mentioned in the summary, you almost see David composing from a mountaintop. But in many verses, he also uses synonymous parallelism. Verses 5, your love, Lord, it reaches the heavens. Your faithfulness to the sky. So that's kind of a repeat of the same concept of height. Your righteousness is like the highest mountains. And verse 7, people take refuge in the shadow of your wings. Of water, verse 6, your justice is like the great deep. You give them drink from your river of delights. Of animals, you, Lord, preserve both people and animals. Of life, verse 9, for with you is the fountain of life, and in your light we see light. Regarding the phrase in the shadow of your wings, David uses this phrase often in the Psalms. We see it also in Psalms 17, 36, and 63. The biblical concept in the shadow of his wings symbolizes divine refuge, protection, and comfort, often used by David to describe his trust in God. This imagery draws from a mother bird sheltering her young, representing safety, care, and strength provided by God, who is seen as the protector, shield, and a place of rest from trouble. The last part of verse 9, in your light we see light, can be prophetical, considering the following scripture. John 1, 4 through 9. In him, Jesus was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. Section 3, Prayer for Protection, verses 10 through 12. Just like all concluding section, this section often refers back to the other parts of the psalm. David continues the use of body parts to make his point. This connects to the first section of verses 1 through 3. I have a message from God in my heart. There's no fear of God before their eyes. Maybe I have to leave this here. Verse 2, in their own eyes they flatter themselves. Verse 3, the words of their mouths are wicked and deceitful. Verse 10, continue righteousness to the upright in heart. 11, may the foot of the proud not come against me, not the hand of the wicked drive me away. Since the psalm is a psalm of contrast between good and evil, the concluding section also shows this contrast as well. In that way, verse 10 connects to what group of verses? Continue your love to those who know you, your righteousness and upright in heart. I think 10 would connect up with 7 and all the things about that, the righteousness and stuff. Verses 11 and 12 connect to what group of verses? That's evil verses, so it would have to be the first 4 verses or 3 verses where they talk about evil. David also uses a concept twice with verse 4 and verse 12. What is similar in these 2 verses, verse 4 and verse 12? Lie fallen in their beds. So verse 1 is quoted twice in the book of Romans, nearly the same in both Romans 3:18 and in Romans 36:1. There's no fear of God before their eyes. The Jews use Psalm 36 for its spiritual guidance, including a prayer for protection against the arrogant, a meditation on God's steadfast love, and an affirmation of trust in God's salvation. The psalm is used for solace, recited during morning rituals, and studied in its Hebrew original to understand its meaning. It serves as a source of comfort by contrasting the corrupt ways of the wicked with God's unwavering faithfulness. Songs written from Psalm 36 are, Your love, O Lord, In the shadow of your wings, by your love, and the fountain of life. So that's the end of this song. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll continue through our study of Psalms. Bye now.